All right, it's time for the Sunday show, and we have all your Dallas Cowboys news and reactions over the next 45 minutes. A dozen of the top Cowboys headlines. We'll start with the 2025 Cowboys futures. It's wild how Vegas is looking at these Cowboys. Do you agree or not? Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
All right, welcome into How Bout Wow, where every day we talk about the Cowboys getting back to the glory days. How About Wow brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lighting, the specialty lighting design and installation team of DFW, Harbor Lights with a U. It's Harbor Enterprises, LLC.com. We'll tell you more about them later. How the hell you doing, New Bear?
I am so damn excited. Scotty Hansen threw it up today. What are we? We're 10 Sundays out. And before all that, we get Cowboys Eagles.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. I am Gavin Dawson from 105.3 The Fan, 2 to 7 every weekday. New Bear Lisnowski, let's give him his props. All SEC academic lineman at Kentucky. When was that? Like 2001 or something?
They do it different now because they want to pump up the academics. You used to have to wait and be Dean's List and do all. So I actually should have one more than I have, like, because my wife has almost as many as I do, and I'm missing one. But you know, it's a 25 year. Why are you doing this to me, man? My fullback year doesn't come until December.
It's obvious, bro. Just look at our beards. We're not fooling anybody, okay? We have Cowboys futures bets to look at here. Wrong screen. There we go. 2025 NFL betting odds is first up. The Morning News actually did a nice piece on this. What are Cowboys Super Bowl chances? Can Micah Parsons win Defensive Player of the Year? My first takeaway within 30 seconds of clicking this article, New Bear, is just I was stunned at how many commercials and ads the Morning News has put in their damn website. Then my next takeaway was,
you know where there's no ads. How about wow.com?
Thank you. Then my next surprise was how many teams I had to scroll through until I got to the Cowboys. Ravens, Eagles plus 700, along with the Bills and the Chiefs at 800, the Lions at 1,000. And then this is where I think the Cowboys should be. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my opinion right now is overinflated, and the Homer side is coming out a little bit. But I mean, Commanders, Niners. How bad were the Niners last year?
Sure.
Vikings. Okay, tell me about the Bengals defense. The Cowboys almost beat the Bengals last year. Okay, if it wasn't for a really weird special teams play late, they would have. The Texans. Seriously, the injury to that wide receiver, they had to blow out their OC. They had major problems offensively last year, a sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. The Broncos, the Chargers, the Buccaneers, the Bears have better odds to win the Super Bowl than the Cowboys. And then the Cardinals. It's just crazy. Here they are, the Cowboys, 4,700. I mean, okay, so in my mind, if this was any other team, I'm hammering the Cowboys at $4,700, right? This is great. $100 to win $4,700. Now, I'm so cynical about the Cowboys' actual chances. There's no way I'd actually place that wager, New Bear. But that is tremendous value, isn't it? That's if you're looking for, hey, bang for the buck, this is the wager, bro.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course the Steelers are right there at the same odds. And you know, when you're looking at everybody that's above them, you're beyond the tried and true that everyone thinks these guys are going to be good, and barring a catastrophic QB1 going down, they should be. What you're talking about are questions that for the most part have answers, or at the very least on paper look like they were answered this offseason. Whereas, you know, we keep talking about injury luck. We keep talking about fumble luck. We keep talking about all the things reverting to norm and getting some of the bounces and some of the ACLs maybe to go the Cowboys' way, where you're looking at Cincinnati and Joe Burrow might be QB1 in the whole league. Jamar Chase is probably, you know, the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year. But if he wins that award, Joe Burrow's MVP. And oh, by the way, if they get anything more from the defense on a team that was hot as hell down the stretch and nobody wanted to play in the playoffs, then you're talking about the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year. And, you know, that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to get you, sucker, homer, cynic that we've made hopeful, say Wantaneo, let's go, throw down $100 and see what's what.
I don't want to throw $100 on that, to be honest with you, New Bear. But, you know, as much as that's an interesting talking point, like, is Vegas minimizing the Cowboys' chances, or are they dead balls on right? As much as that is interesting, I would like to continue to scroll down on this article, and we'll take a look at MVP odds. Okay. No Cowboys are considered favorites for the NFL MVP award at this point. There are a few names to watch. Dak Prescott is plus 4,000. That's $100 to win $4,000, New Bear.
Right.
If their running game isn't great and they have to pass the ball 58-60% of the time with these weapons, Dak Prescott second in MVP voting in 2023. Is that the money-making opportunity we're looking for?
Well, let's not forget that coming off the ankle in 2021, 11-5 playoffs, 69%, 4,500 yards, 37 touch. He was only comeback player of the year 2 that year. Like think about that, how some of this stuff, ends up shaking out, right? And so Vegas right now is doing what Vegas does. And they're trying to get us talking like we're talking and trying to get you to get that wallet out, get that Venmo out, however it is that, you're getting into FanDuel, wherever it is you like to play these games.
I'm a bet online guy myself. We have to go overseas here in the great state of Texas. They like freedoms for the things they like.
Well, and so here's where this gets really interesting, right? That same year that we're talking about, Dak coming back from the ankle, you had Burrow coming back from a knee off of a pretty disastrous, like a universally disastrous rookie year. Here we are all these years later. We're still talking about those same 2 guys, and we're talking about them for the same types of reasons. Going into this season, if Dak rebounds, if Dak is in the comeback player of the year conversation, he's in the MVP conversation. The Cowboys are in the playoffs. The Cowboys are in the Super Bowl conversation. The Cowboys are paying off bets.
I think you just named the perfect strat. You do a hundo on NFL Comeback Player of the Year, a hundo on MVP. Chances are you're going to recap plus make 50% of your initial investment back. You'll be sitting at the end of this season with $300 as Dak Prescott wins Comeback Player of the Year. And if this passing game goes the way we expected to, if they can keep him clean when 4 guys are rushing, then I think Pickens and Lamb give this offense the chance to go for 4,500 to 5,000 yards and maybe the 40 touchdowns that have put him back in this conversation, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, preach. And what's fun about this as well is who else isn't on any of these lists? I mean, CD is pretty far down. I mean, you're getting pretty good odds to make money on him winning something. But then there's a whole bunch of guys like Pickens, like Blue, like Shoddy for Coach of the Year. There's a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. You start talking about parlays and having fun. Cowboys fan or just fan of money, if you're interested in making money, there's a lot of really interesting numbers out there for the boys in blue.
But the thing that really hit me this week, New Bear, is that they really haven't done anything year one to help Matt Eberflus and Brian Schottenheimer get a handle on this run defense. And I think that would be the reason, as I'm looking at to win the Super Bowl $100 Cowboys, I just can't see it. Now, maybe if they make some additions here as the summer goes on and you get late training camp additions or trade deadline additions, I would try to run to the sports book and get that hundo in if they added like a Pro Bowl level corner and maybe a safety. If I'm looking at it, I do think they would need a linebacker as well. So I mean, truth be told, I think they're 3 players away on defense from having a squad good enough for me to imagine being in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, Flus, he's had the number 1 rush defense. We talked about how data, however you want to use it. They also faced the least amount of, or second least amount of attempts that year. So there's always, you really got to dig if you want to get into some of this stuff. But beyond any of the human data and what they've done on the field, it's the human data of ACLs and ankles and shoulders and all these things these guys are coming back from, because there's a ton of red ink on the depth chart right now. And oh, by the way, someone still hasn't inked their name on a contract, which means this team's going to look a whole lot different one way or the other.
What do you think of Micah Parsons at plus 650 for DPOY? You want to bet on that, New Bear?
That makes him number 1, right? He's got I mean, they're basically saying, come on, this is the head of the class. This is the front runner. Hutch isn't talking about coming off injury. Hutch has had a really long time. The good thing about the injury happening when it did is that he should be good to go. I mean, he was talking about playing in the Super Bowl had Detroit made it that far, kind of like T.O. once upon a time. So when you look at 650 versus 700, that's a really interesting one between Hutch and Micah. As I'm looking at it, TJ's down there at 1,000. I don't know. Some of this stuff is going to be interesting because the PFF has kind of changed the way that, we look at some of this stuff. It's not about just the counting stats. It's the totality of, pass rush wins, rush rate, win percentage. Like, we're nerding out on this stuff. Like Micah would probably have to have 20 plus sacks and all these counting things to get past some of these other guys, because they've been rewarded in previous years for passing the eye test and really not coming up when it comes to. I mean, you look back at Myles Garrett's counting stats the year he won; it was more like a career achievement award.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we're getting ready to do with Micah Parsons because he's never had the huge year. Maybe it's career achievement. And the other thing with Micah Parsons that I wanted to bring up with you is how much Eberflus has talked about this team needing to get in shape. When you're talking about Micah Parsons, you're talking about a player who, while great, has never had the full 17 games dominance. It's been good early, but not late, or it's been good, and then he's hurt, and then it was good late, but there's never been a full 17-game season, so can he get there? Does he need to get in shape? And I'm sure you've seen plenty of Cowboys games where Micah is coming to the sideline exhausted and almost having to drag himself off the bench to go back onto the field, and when he gets on there, he's incredibly quick, but imagine how much better he could be if he wasn't exhausted. I think might be Eberflus's point.
That's what TJ Watt gets a ton of crap for here in Pittsburgh, and anybody who didn't want to see him get paid again is talking about how he takes himself out of games. And what's going to be interesting with Parsons, also when you're talking about eye test and counting stats kind of coming together to make your case for you, is there might be talking about the hybrid role they want to use him in. You might see this be the year where he has a pick six. You might see this be the year where he's peanut punching and he's maybe taking some chances because they're putting him in positions to do more than just hunt the quarterback. They're putting him in positions to hunt game-changing plays.
Great stuff here. New Barrett's How Bout Wow every day on YouTube, where we talk about the Cowboys getting back to the glory days. If you have so far enjoyed the video, go ahead, give us a like and give us your thoughts down below. We love to keep the conversation throughout the day there in the chat. All right. Up next here on How Bout Wow. There's the horsey. Oh, man. I got some serious bag. Are you hearing me okay? You hear me okay? All right.
Yeah.
So did you see that George Pickens story last week?
Did I see it? I see it? That's all anybody was talking about in the 412.
Really? He's flaking on the camp?
The story should have just been Freiermuth's such a good dude. But the way they wanted to paint it was Pickens dipped. And this just shows you that he was that's why we're so happy to be rid of this guy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess the company that organized this thing sent out a nasty press release midweek, and then I guess this was yesterday or maybe Friday night, they put out a statement saying, man, we're bad. We actually never talked with George Pickens, and we got a miscommunication through their organizer, so we're sorry for putting that press release out and making him look like such a bad guy. Apparently the story here at New Bear is that this is the week that that Dak Prescott does his annual retreat with the offensive players. And it was just like horrible timing where if you're George Pickens, you're kind of in a lurch. I would say if you're Dak and the other guys, I would encourage him to carve out some time to fly back to Pittsburgh in the middle of our retreat. I think that'd be the absolute most professional way of handling it. I don't think the organizers were that professional with that press release, really throwing George under the bus. And I do think, maybe George should make a better effort to go through on something that was going to have his name on it. Like, how does something end up with your name on it if you're not intending to go and follow through? That's just weird to me.
I don't, man. They went so far here locally to put this family on TV on one of the main stations and basically say, we're not going because it was like when Michael Jordan came out of retirement and people were giving up their Christmas and their family vacations to buy tickets to be in the field house that night because they thought that, he wasn't going to be coming through town. Like, can we not do this? Like, it's not that big of a deal, first and foremost. Second of all, he doesn't play for you anymore. Third of all, at the very least, miscommunication. At the very most, PR hit piece after PR hit piece. Like, they put a family in lights and basically did everything short of poke the kid and make him cry about how George Pickens wasn't going to be there. They've treated this guy like an asshole on the way out of town. Just let him be.
So you're on George Pickens' side on this one.
Man, if we're now issuing a release saying that we had no confirmation, we had miscommunication, we had all this other stuff, the way it played out here, the local trending Twitter, the local trending TV, everything in between, was George Pickens is an asshole. George Pickens skipped out. Look at this. Woe is me. This little family isn't going to get to see George. Well, if he's such a bad guy, why did you want your little kid to meet him in the first place? Like, which side of your mouth do you want to talk about first so you can just make yourself look like a bigger idiot later? Like, I want to see him. This is going to be the 1 year. This is going to be the crystallization of everything that this dude is. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be big numbers. It's going to be bright lights. And he has no other choice but to put it all together. Because if it doesn't happen this year, it ain't going to never happen. And I wish we could just let go and let God and let this dude just go dunk on people. The problem is that the pattern of the problem being the wide receiver room in Pittsburgh means that they will take any chance they can get to make themselves look better in a situation like this on his way out of town. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. He's already gone. He's been gone. You gave up on the kid.
You got things going on where the organization wants to justify their trade, and then the media and the fans have all this animosity built up, and they feel like a story like this confirms their bias towards the guy.
Not only does it confirm their bias, it gives them another get out of jail free. Look, you see.
Yeah.
Look. And what's so ridiculous about it is this is the same organization that just signed Aaron Rodgers. This is the same organization that says the standard is the standard. It ain't the Super Bowl anymore. It's just making the playoffs and winning 9 games. On top of that, everything else is about. Everything else with this organization is supposed to be about doing things the right way, et cetera, et al. And all they're doing right now is issuing PR hit pieces and then saying that, oh, by the way, here's a little good game butt pat on my bad. And in reality, for 3 days, everywhere that you looked, you were painting this guy like a clown. And in reality, the egg should be on your face.
Well, you're killing it, man. This is just so perfect that we decide to finally come back together and do this podcast. And you're in Pittsburgh, where the biggest Cowboy story going into the 2025 season has spent his last 3 years. Up next on How About Wow, Tom Pelissero reporting the latest on the Micah Parsons contract. Micah wants shorter deal terms, apparently. Here's Tommy. Yeah. Why is this not playing? There we go.
There was a time that doing 6-year extensions, 5-year extensions, that was commonplace in the NFL. You look across the league in free agency this year, I believe there's only one 5-year deal done in the entire league, and that was Will Fry's his deal with the Vikings. Everything is trending towards shorter term deals, higher percentages guaranteed, and not having those tail type years. The Cowboys, their history has been you do longer deals, 6-year extensions, if not longer in the case of a guy like Tyron Smith, but you do strong cash flow up front, and then there's team-friendly back years on those deals where you end up having somebody at a rate that you can sustain for a long time. With Micah, my sense would be it's not even about the money, because if they had a handshake agreement, the money's already in line. Now this is about, does Micah, who I believe is 25 or 26 right now, does he want to be under contract all the way out until his mid-30s, or does he want to get another bite at the apple around 29 or 30?
Yeah, you'd be foolish to not want to do that at 29 or 30 if you play a position that does not typically age well. And Micah's not a real technician; he's a natural burster. So yeah, the Cowboys want to give you your guaranteed not, which I think for Micah is going to set the record, and it'll be over $125 million. But they want the 5th or 6th year so they can spread that out into the future. And I think they'll probably use it as reason to hold out until, Micah actually has the most leverage, and, they got to give him an even bigger contract than they would be able to do today. So this contract stuff with the Cowboys is very frustrating at times for the media, but at least, thanks to Tom, maybe we now have a better understanding of the context of why this one's going to get dragged out.
Well, and the bite at the apple thing is really fascinating too, because with a lot of these guys, it's certainly not apples to oranges, but it also ain't Fuji apples to Gala apples, right? I mean, you start talking about Myles Garrett getting the extension in his age 30 season right now, TJ Watt age 31. He was right. This is Micah's age 26. So you go 26, 27, 28. Even if he does 4 years, he's 29. When you look back at TJ's year 29, 19 sacks. And now you're talking about, okay, if he had been going into his contract at that time, you're talking about AP1, should have been DPOY 1, ends up coming in second. And also, he's on the right side of 30. Myles Garrett's right there on the edge. He's a year removed from Defensive Player of the Year. But the difference is now TJ dipped to 11.5. TJ had the playoff game where he didn't have a counting stat. and now he's 31. And so you got leverage against the player. And Micah wants to be able to have the conversation one more time where he's in the driver's seat.
All right. Thank you, sir. Killing it once again here on How About Wow. Up next here on the show, we're actually going to stay with Micah Parsons right here. He's got an offseason workout video. Apparently, he got together with his guys, several of the Cowboys defensive players. They got in this sand somewhere, and we're working out. Here's about 30 seconds of it.
What a bag. What's good, dude? Come on.
Yeah, come on. Good. Good. Come on. Finish. Hey, come on. Violent. Good. Come on. Come on. Good. Arms, Osa, finish. Go. Come on, finish.
Hard enough for you Cowboys fans. What do you think? Running in the sand, that is going to get you strong in ways that no other running will, bro. I love it.
Can I just tell you the one, I get the heebie-jeebie. I got a little chill because I always go back to Robert Edwards. I think it was like 99 Pro Bowl out on Waikiki, jumps up to Ken, and he's never the same, right? And his knee just gone. Like the sands, to your point, yes, and that's why they do it. It's the same reason you put bands or chains or any of the dynamic stuff that you add to a bar when you're bench and squat and what have you. But it's also there's a little bit of fear factor. There's a little bit of that you really got to trust your stuff and everything that's going into what you're doing and being able to plant and trust that it ain't going to go the other way like it did for Robert Edwards. That always that little bit of heebie-jeebies, man.
Yeah, it's nervous time. I think that's another, fair way of looking at that kind of stuff. Anytime these guys are out there throwing their bodies around like that, injury is possible. Speaking of workouts, CD and George got a photo together. I mean, this is perfect.
Hang it in the Louvre.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of is when Kyrie Irving came to the Mavs and there was so much turmoil at his previous stop. And it's like, what are we in for? And then, they just kind of made it a point to absolutely bro the hell out of it. And the next thing you know, it's good vibes everywhere. And if they start winning, hopefully this is a permanent home for George Pickens. I don't think the Cowboys can turn down this gift and not do a long-term deal with him.
Running mate for a half decade sounds real nice. The thing that's going to be interesting in terms of contract stuff with him is if he goes out and does what George Pickens does, and he does it at the factor of opposite CD, and that's a escalator for all this stuff, and they go on a run, do you still have like Policero was saying, what percentage is guaranteed? Or what are the behavior clauses? Like all these things they're trying to do now with the language about getting fined. Pickens would be the first guy in line who might have to actually sign for something like that because the past behavior stuff. But if he's a model citizen and then CD and Dak and all these guys are like, we're the new triplets. Like this is going to be the most fascinating storyline of the NFL season.
Yeah. And how do you value the second guy, like Ayuk in San Francisco? I think San Francisco had almost immediate buyer's remorse on that dynamic. Like the second guy's not going to get the targets. He's not going to have an 1,800-yard season while CD might. And if the guy's pushing you, the top of the market's 35 or 36 at wide receiver right now. Am I right on that? If he's pushing you to hit 32, 33, and you're thinking, man, it'd be great if you take 25. If he doesn't, I just hope the Cowboys have the appetite financially to say, hey, we're going to have to make a big push and a big sacrifice and maybe change the way that we've done things historically at wide receiver where we never pay two guys. But Dak needs it, damn it. And if we're ever going to get this thing done, we got to break out of this mold somehow. And I think George Pickens would be a hell of a way to do it.
The Ayuk one's really interesting because he's not really wide receiver one. I mean, Deebo wasn't really wide receiver one. The system is the wide receiver 1, 2, 3. Christian McCaffrey, whoever steps in that Shanahan system and figures out how to shine. But what you look at in 2023 with Ayuk is 17-9. I mean, he had 75 catches for 17-9 gets you over 1,300. He's all pro too because of what he does with those opportunities. We're talking about 105 targets. I mean, that's over 70% catch rate. And you say what you want about Brock Purdy and the system. Say what you want about the system making Brock Purdy. It's all those guys working together. And all we've talked about with Dak, go back to Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. The numbers, the counting stats, the raw volume isn't there. But 21 a catch, game-breaking play is. And oh, by the way, at the end of the day, where'd all the rings come from?
Up next on How About Wow. ranking the off seasons. Cowboys had a hell of a draft. They brought in George Pickens. They brought in Sanborn and Murray. They brought in Solomon Thomas and Peyton Turner on the defensive line. What do you think? Should they have a top 10 off-season consideration? CBS Sports left them out. They put 2 division rivals inside of it. Eagles had the 9th best off-season, even though they lost Gardner Johnson and Bradbury and Darius Slay. They replaced him with cost-efficient players. Josh Uche, Azeez Ojulari, and Adoree Jackson added for insurance. You got the first-round pick, Jahad Campbell, should supplement the pass rush. And even though they lost Milton Williams, I don't know how they think that's a better offseason than what the Cowboys had. I think there's some bias. And then with the Commanders, they brought in Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel, and one other name player that escapes me right now. But, man, I think the Cowboys out of these teams got the best overall player in Pickens.
You familiar with Mel Robbins at all? You familiar with the let them theory?
No.
So if you think about, you ever felt stuck? You ever been overwhelmed or frustrated with where you are? And let's say your team is, like you might be saying what you just said. So literally the book is called Let Them. The theory is let them. Someone doesn't think you're good enough, or someone doesn't think you should be paid more. Someone doesn't think you should be all pro. Let them, and then go put in the work, do the damn thing, get the job done. Let them, because I'm going to tell you this right now. Let everybody sleep on this team, and let everybody go watch the Bears try to climb from the cellar to, okay, fine, they have the best offseason. They still got to go do it on the field. They're trying to get Caleb Williams to go from being the number 1 pick with Patrick Mahomes level expectations to become a check down merchant. Good luck with that.
I like to let them. I do like to let them, Newberry. I need that energy right now. It's good chicken soup for my Cowboys soul, but I want to do a separate show just with all of the reasons I think that, that there's no payoff at the end of the let them for 2025 based on the personnel here right now.
We're not done yet, though. So the separate show, yes, and I promise I won't digress and go too far down the rabbit hole. The one thing that needs to be said on this show right now is that Pickens was the proof point that Jerry Jones was no longer bleeping around. He promised before the draft there's going to be major moves. Pickens was the first one. Let's not forget Gilly Lock's still out there. Let's not forget there's still guys, Mike Hilton, et cetera, that we've talked about these past weeks. There's guys like that out there. There's more work to be done. They do that work. We're having a different conversation. Nothing changes. I like this list.
Okay. They right now don't have a top 10. I think they could, but I still think they have so many holes on their roster. Maybe we'll dig into that here in the next couple of days and go long. I would love to see them bring back Eric Kendricks. Is this just not a fit? Did Eberflus want to get Sanborn? And I mean, you trade a pick and then Kenneth Murray Jr., his $7 million contract is on the books. You need to stop the run better. Kendricks, his PFF scores anyway. Maybe you want to look at the maybe you think he's getting old, but he was a top 3rd run defender. He's making plays. He's forcing fumbles. He's scooping fumbles. He's intercepting passes. He's just a solid hell of a linebacker. If they would bring back Eric Kendricks right now, it would do wonders for my confidence.
I think you're talking, he's entering his age 33 season. And when you look at him being, I mean, it was the last decade when he was all pro 1, and that was the only time that he received any honors. So, you're talking about a very, very good player. And you're talking about, yes, they did pay Kenneth Murray $7 million. They also got Sanborn for pennies on the dollar. And when you look at having a combination of guys that you take a shot on because you think they might make some home run plays, and then guys that you have that are plug and play that can run your system, that what the basement, what the floor is, at the very least with Sanborn, exactly what lunch pail guy is showing up. He's not going to be Sean Lee athletically, but he's the same type of player where he's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's going to show up ready to put his face in the fan. And then, oh, by the way, with the effort, with the grit, you get some of that stuff. And then with Murray, I think you're betting on the system and the guys around him, and him realizing that if he doesn't get this thing together, he's done. So
no, I think you make great points in there, Newberry. Landry did a nice job pointing out some of the other players that are available. You mentioned Gilmore. Amari Cooper is out there. Wide receiver 3. Go Justin Simmons. Go get Justin Simmons and Stephon Gilmore. Like, the first thing I'm going to ask when we get Jerry and Steven in Oxnard here towards the end of July or early August is, why not add $30 million of payroll to this team? Why you're close. Right. But you are depending right now on Diggs and Ravel, who are at various stages from coming back from injury at cornerback. And, your linebackers, for all the good things you said, and we can hope maybe they're a better fit in Eberflus's system. Murray Jr. put together two of the most atrocious seasons in finishing tackles in the history of Pro Football Focus. Like, it'd be one thing if it just happened last year, but it also happened in 2023. And that you need to fix the defense. You got worse at run stopping this offseason by letting Kendricks go and replacing him with Sanborn and Murray, in my opinion.
Well, you're also talking about a guy who's like 6 years younger. He's 3 inches taller. He's 10 pounds heavier. We've talked about Murray being a traits guy and being a guy that, remember, the Cowboys are one of those teams that they follow guys. They loved him coming out of Oklahoma. They've watched him play and they've seen him make splash plays. And they think that with Flus, he can be a guy that they can mold into the player that he was always supposed to be. And you do that because you see 6'3", 240, 4'5", and 27. 20, still 20. Yeah, this is his age 27 season. Whereas, Kendricks is 33. He's, 2019 was his all-pro year. That's a long time ago, right? And he's 6 foot. Me and him are looking each other in the eye. Like, there's a reason that Kenneth Murray's on this squad, and then we'll see what he can do. We'll judge him accordingly.
Okay, we have up next on How Bout Wow. We're going back here to CBS Sports. Biggest red flags for 2025 NFL contenders. The Chiefs O-line, the Vikings quarterback, another article go through. We're not going to see the Cowboys on this list, New Bears. This is snub to not even be on this list. How are the Vikings? The Vikings have better Super Bowl odds. I know they had a good year. Is their roster so flippin' stacked they think J.J. McCarthy's going to step in there and really go win a Super Bowl for them?
You watch J.J. McCarthy do stuff, and it just looks like the way it's supposed to be done. Everyone just wants him to be the next one. And when you watch what they did revitalizing Sam Darnold before he started seeing ghosts again, there were people. Sam Darnold was on a short list for MVP. The Vikings were on a short list for Super Bowl. They should have probably went to the Super Bowl last year. And, when you look at the guys were running wide open, and he was just seeing things that weren't there, or he was not seeing things that were wide open. And that's Sam Darnold. And that's a guy who, you talk about traits. He's a guy who probably should have stayed in college for another year, but he for damn sure shouldn't have went to the JETS nopes. Like Sam Darnold needed to get hugged, and he got hugged. Kevin O'Connell's a genius. Justin Jefferson, if it's not CD, it's Justin Jefferson. He's the only one that you can say it's him and Jamar Chase. Can you believe, speaking of Eric Kendricks, All-Pro in 2019, can you believe that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, I still cannot believe that Joe Burrow got to throw those two dudes at LSU. Greatest college football team of all time.
Unbelievable that team was. Yeah, our Brian Broaddus is an LSU guy, and just the joy that season continues to give him and other LSU fans is second to none.
Yeah, when, Burrow, speaking about odds, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that Burrow's old man threw $2,000 down when he transferred from Ohio State, paid off $400K on his little baby boy.
Wow, that's a hell of a bet.
Broaddus should be. If I was an LSU grad, and don't get me started about LSU because I was there for the Bluegrass Miracle. When Nick Saban was there, they beat us on a 75-yard Hail Mary that traveled 50 yards in the air. We had 10,000 guys on the field tearing down a goalpost. We fucking lost. Don't get me started about LSU.
Okay, I have off-season questions here coming up in just a second on How About Wow, but we do want to tell you How About Wow is brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lighting. Go to HarborEnterprisesLLC.com. They have a Christmas in July special going on right now. You can schedule for December your Christmas lights and save big, but also the permanent lighting, as you see on the structures right here, both small businesses, big businesses, and residential as well. They do it next level. There's the number right there on screen if you want to go back and screenshot that. But we'd love it if you shop with our How About Wow sponsors and Harbor Lighting, Elements Massage in Frisco, the two locations. Salute to everybody involved. Okay, share this, jump over here. Up next on How About Wow. I'm going to get much quicker at that, much smoother, New Bear. Okay, I'm just getting my steps in here, getting my reps in before camp. Camp's going to hit the ground running totally polished.
Hey, don't get too down on yourself because nobody pronounces names like you do. So we'll give you some slack on the transitions because you make up for it in other ways.
Okay, DallasCowboys.com doing a 20-question series, and salute to them. You got Yarish and Spags and Patrick Walker, Kurt Daniels working on this particular article. Cold beers, gentlemen. And today's question, who replaces Jordan Lewis in the slot? And this is exactly what I was talking about, New Bear. Like, you lost some players. While I think they brought in some good ones, the defensive backfield really lost a dog and a great slot player, one of their better tacklers from the secondary position over the last decade in Jordan Lewis. He was one of my favorite players on and off the field. But then, the dominoes that start to fall, you really got Kyer Elam and Siobhan Revell, a first-round bust, and a guy coming off an ACL, because at this point, I think you're going to have to put Deron Bland in the slot, which I'm not afraid of. If you are in base, I guess he stays on the field, and either Revell comes off or Elam, depending on who's playing better. Do I have it right?
Revell's so long. I wonder if he's on the roster. I wonder if the answer to this question is on the roster. I can't. I'm still, being in Pittsburgh for the past 10 years, I still think Mike Hilton was one of the biggest free agent misses, not keeping him here and letting him just take a boat down the Ohio River to Cincinnati and torment us. I wonder if that dude's just hanging out there, and especially if Flus wants guys with eye on the ball, especially if you want to talk about blitzing out of the slot. I wonder if the answer's on the roster right now, and I say that for two reasons. One, there's a handful of dudes, bringing Gilly Lock back, or a guy like Hilton who fits a specific need here, talking about slot. But then at the same time, the injury stuff. We're going to ask Revell, who's tall, who's long, who probably belongs outside, to be coming back from an ACL tear and say, hey, the first thing you need to do to test if you can play is chase everyone with two-way goes. Like, that dude needs to be put out on the edge and just turn and run.
They also mentioned Kalen Carson, the second-year player, had a disappointing rookie season after an exciting rookie camp. Kalen Carson didn't work out. They're mentioning the safeties like Israel Mukuwamu, Wanye Thomas, and Bell as well. There's a number of guys who are just kind of like, I'm a safety, I'm a slot player, I'm not really great at either, but maybe I can suffice for a while.
Well, what's cool about this conversation is if Micah signs and you get the health and you get the production and Easy and Fowler and Solomon Thomas and all these guys come together up front, and you're not having to do these exotic blitz packages, and Eberflus is able to play base, whether that's base calls out of sub or base defense because you're dictating terms to other teams and forcing them to do certain things, then that's a little bit of a different conversation, because the same way that we're talking about Dak the other way, having problems blocking 4 with 5 or getting home with 4, being able to drop 7 into coverage, we need to be having the same conversation about the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, we do, man. The Cowboys defense needs attention, and I think it's one that is frustrating at times because they just don't invest the premium stuff. Like Mike McCarthy wanted to make it a physical defense. They kept drafting offensive linemen, edge players, and corners. And now you're still left with this defense that really lacks a backbone, lacks a toughness about it. And I think with the personnel they got right now, you're going to have to play with a lead because their defensive backs are so rough, dude. Like, you're going to have to pressure the hell out of quarterbacks. Otherwise, they are going to light you up. So I think Eberflus has the plan. I believe in the coaching staff, but I think this thing needs to get done in the offseason before we can be real serious, at least for me, considering this team a contender. Okay, let's finish with a couple of fun things. Let's go to T.O., former Cowboys wide receiver.
He still looks like he could play.
Dude, I don't doubt it. What is he here? Is he at an esports event or something? I don't know, but he's clowning Deebo Samuel pretty good. Here we go.
He gonna do his thing. Everybody keeps saying Deebo fat. He is, man. He is. What you think? He's just big bone, you know what I'm saying? I ain't no big bone. That's what you say when girls are fat. Eddie Lacy. Hey, that's the term you
Oh, they just said Eddie Lacy.
Oh, say they big bone. He about 2 chicken nuggets from being tipping the scale. Oh, my, all right. Hey, Deebo, man, I love Deebo. Hey, man, Deebo, we had a conversation. Yo,
2 chicken nuggets from tipping the scale, and NFL wide receiver being fat shamed. New Bear, what do you think?
Well, I heard, if you didn't hear me say it, I said, oh my God, they said Eddie Lacy. I mean, when you talk about dudes who literally ate their way out of the NFL, look, we talked about Dak getting down to 226 to run at the combine and how he played at 230 plus. He was at one point listed at 238 with the Cowboys and was probably playing in the 240s during the season, versus now we're guessing he's somewhere at the very least in the 2 teens, right? Deebo was 214 at the NFL. Deebo ain't been 214 except for the one crazy year in San Francisco his whole NFL career. And you and I were talking off the air the other day about LeBron's playing weight and Pat Riley kind of getting in those guys and making guys get in shape because D Wade showed up one time and he said, look, I'm buff. And Pat Riley looked at him and said, you're fat. Go get on the treadmill, right? And Deebo is one of those guys that has to be told that. It just is how it is because he wants to kind of play his way into shape. He wants to show up thick and strong and as healthy and as ready to rock as he is, and then kind of progressively chip away at that. And when you saw that stuff coming out of Washington, it was really surprising because you're new face, new place. And oh, by the way, you haven't been healthy, and you're talking about soft tissue stuff. But it's
yeah.
Oh, T.O. really, when you look at people and you'd be like, man, you shouldn't be saying that, right? Like I could just
not help himself, can he? I mean, the great thing about T.O. is he's stone sober saying this stuff.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Because I can make fat jokes because I'm fat, and I can tease linemen because I was a lineman. Whatever the case, I can tease nerds because I'm a smart jock or whatever you want to get into it. Tease me about, right?
Yeah.
But like T.O. It ain't just doing the sit-ups for the cameras with your shirt off in the driveway. This dude running in slow motion on the beach is better than anything you're going to see on Nat Geo.
It's crazy. I mean, he's 50 years old, still has the wisdom and perspective of a 19-year-old. But, I was a huge fan in his playing days. I think he's the most dangerous Cowboys wide receiver of all time. I don't think it's even a question if you're building an all-quarter century team for one game. You're putting T.O. in the game. No disrespect to Des Bryant.
No. You put him in the game with one leg. I mean, there's an argument to be made that if Donovan McNabb wasn't puking all over himself, they stopped the Patriots dynasty.
But you know what else I love about this thing right here? Nico and T.O. are fat-shaming athletes, and like as Nico was to Luka, T.O. here is to Deebo Samuel. You see that? And then these guys that just live and die about their diet and their fitness and everything. Those are the guys that you want. Deebo is Luka. I don't know if it's lifestyle stuff, but he puts on weight. The weight has worked for him as a young man. Like 26-year-old Deebo put on 20 pounds. He's like Kirby Puckett for the Minnesota Twins in the outfield for the World Series, climbing walls at 300 pounds, 5'8", Kirby Puckett, just an absolute bowling ball of a man. So some of these athletes are so good, they can put on extra weight. It doesn't bother them until they get to about 30, 31 years old. Then all of a sudden, that oatmeal keeps sticking to your ribs and you slow down in a hurry.
I mean, 2021 Deebo was as amazing as anyone's been. I mean, we caught like 80 balls, 1,400 yards. I mean, led the league in receiving yards per catch. But then he's also just low-key like, I'll go ahead and tote the rock for another 360 and 8 on the ground or whatever. And I want to say, like, if you're talking about an all-pro guy and sacrificing for the team, let's not lose sight of the fact that he took some shots running between the tackles as well. Like, as much as the soft tissue and the body shaming and the weight is a part of this, he was also playing running back in the NFL, right? So he was taking some serious wear and tear because now you're not just talking about getting hit in the box 9-on-7 on Sunday, but you're also talking about getting those reps in practice. You're also talking about, having a rep. And I'm sure that they did, everything they could to mitigate those things and keep him on a pitch count or what have you. But he's only 29 years old. And he's going to go into camp and they're going to get him on the treadmill. He's going to lose 20 pounds. He's going to come out. And as long as he doesn't pull a hammy, he's going to make life hell for some people.
I would not want to play against that guy. I do not want to play against that guy as a 205-pound corner. Dude, that just sounds like misery.
Tyshun Raekwon Samuel is a bad dude.
What do you think about wide receivers playing running back? Because I think there's an interesting case to be made that one of the most devastating things the Cowboys could do would be to get CD more carries.
Yes,
impact on Deebo.
So you're talking about fly sweep versus literally dot in the eye, running power and sweep and stuff. No. CeeDee Lamb is not built like Deebo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
No. And if Deebo, if that had any attrition on mid to late 20s Deebo, it would absolutely take years off of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I don't mind the fly sweep stuff. Anything to put CeeDee Lamb in space in one-on-one situations, I'm all for. But like lining him up in the backfield to do anything more than put him in motion like Jerry Rice and put him on a little angle route, miss me.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a cheat code for offensive coordinators. Like, you put running backs into routes, they're going to underperform even a fourth wide receiver on a team. But you put a wide receiver in the backfield and the chaos that it creates, you let him get a running start. If a DB does stay on him pre-snap, I mean, it's just the boost that they get is incredible. And that's why these wide receivers typically, when they run the ball, instead of getting 4 something, they're getting upper 5s and into the 6s.
This is why when you talk about the greatest running backs of all time, the conversation in terms of eras wide begins with Marshall Faulk and really LaDainian Tomlinson, because what those dudes could do, and Roger Craig is probably on the medal stand, what those dudes could do out of the backfield as true wide receivers playing running back or running backs playing wide receiver, nothing like it. Jamar Chase is the closest approximation to it in terms of what he does with the ball in his hands after the catch in today's game.
I love it. Awesome job as always, Newberry. We're back tomorrow with more content. You can read our stuff, get our socials. How about wow.com?